Hey, what's up, Stay Tuners? It's your good friend Jimbo here, letting you know that today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. I recently joined as a member and you can too. Apply today and let them know that you heard from Stay Tuned Sports and you start earning today. That's podgo.co at podgo.co.
You heard the rest. Now here's the best Stay Tuned Sports Podcast.
And hello there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here with a interesting week of stories to talk about. We have the NHLRef being fired, never gonna be a ref again, because of what happened with a hot mic, open mic. Guess he thought it was karaoke Tuesday or something and thought the mic was off. Gonna talk a little bit about my Flyers again after watching the past few games. Slowly coming to the end of the season now, roughly about 20-some games left in the regular season. And honestly, I didn't even know how the playoff brackets were set up till I looked it up. I thought it was just gonna be regular playoff seeding, but we'll go into it just in case you guys haven't heard or seen how that's set up and how it could affect the Flyers and other teams in other divisions as well. But before we get into the show, though, head over to staytunesports.net to follow all of our social media accounts. They're on the right hand side there: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. And we also have the merchandise tab up top for any hoodies or shirts or hats that you'd like to purchase. And for the people that have bought the shirts and merchandise, I just want to say I appreciate you supporting the show here. Really couldn't do this without you guys, signing in every week to listen to me ramble about stupid shit and about how we should fire Howie Roseman and Chuck Fletcher is starting to probably get up there after seeing some of the quotes from his press conference this past week. Also, the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series will be starting back up in a couple weeks. I believe April 9th is our first race with the NSRA Racing League here. There's still some races available to sponsor, so if you have a podcast or a business, or even if you just wanted to sponsor a race in your name, head over to their Facebook page, NSRA, National Sim Racing Association League, and send them a message, or you can message me on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll get you in touch with the right people to be able to sponsor a race or some of the awards that are still available. So we'll kick it off talking about this ref that basically was fired earlier today, Wednesday, because of what happened during the Nashville Predators and Detroit Red Wings game on Tuesday night. So referee Tim Peel got fired because in the second period, with 15 minutes left in the second period, Predators forward Victor Arvidsson was called for tripping against Red Wings defenseman John Merrill in the offensive zone. And when they show the replay, Merrill was actually embellishing pretty good to draw the penalty. Now, we have seen that happen time and time again. Basketball, football, every sport. Every player always embellishes to try to draw the penalty or the foul or whatever sport you're talking about, whatever they call it. Well, the problem is with this was that only 2.5 minutes later, the Nashville Predators broadcast captured audio of Peel saying, "It wasn't much," talking about the penalty. "It wasn't much, but I wanted to get a effing penalty against Nashville early." And his mic was on. So obviously they have the evidence there. NHL heard about it right after the game, instantly opened their investigation into it. And, obviously fired him today. Why even say that? Okay, you're talking to Detroit Red Wings guy, and, why would you even say that? That would only fuel Detroit to say, okay, listen, we got this ref in our back pocket here. We could get some penalties here, even though for the game, I believe I saw it was 3 power plays each. So it really didn't help Detroit at all to have him in his back pocket. And when I saw this, I messaged our good buddy King, because I saw that he isn't the greatest at being a ref. Constantly being picked apart about calls on Twitter from NHL fans. And it just happened to be, I saw that he was pulled a couple years ago from a New Jersey Devils home game because of a picture came out that he was having a beer with an ESPN writer, which I don't understand how that affects the game, but maybe it's some inside information or something could cause the big ruckus. But our good friend King kind of filled me in and said basically he's not a good ref. I asked him, did a lot of the calls, were they just normal bad calls, or were they like catastrophic, change the game type calls? And everybody I talked to, including our friend King here, said basically it's a lot of both. Now, I don't know how NHL does it with the refs, as far as, do they grade the refs like the NFL does? We've seen over the years with the NFL and even NCAA football, grade refs, and if they were a bad grade, they get less big games and less, being the head ref, they get demoted. So if this ref, the first person I blame is, NHL. They have to see, I'll use, this Nashville Predators game for an example. They have to see that the Detroit guy was embellishing the foul pretty bad. So they know the ref made the wrong call. And the other thing about this was Peel made the call from center ice. So he wasn't even close to the action and called this penalty. So the first person I actually do blame NHL. If this ref was that bad of a ref over time, I believe I saw he was a ref since like 96 or 99, and so obviously that's a long time because he was retiring at the end of this year. Why not grade this guy? And if he's grading low, you say, okay, listen, we're going to cut back your games. You need to focus on making the right calls, better calls, and making sure the right calls. That right there would have eliminated this incident. Or if he wanted to get better, he would have got better and not make these type of calls, type of incidences. Because we all know that this happens in every sport. We all know that there's going to be really bad calls. And as much as a ref doesn't want to be a fan of a sport or a fan of a team, it's hard not to do that. Not to favor one team over the other. I bust on King about the Devils, but I actually don't like the Rangers more than the Devils. So it'd be hard for me to call fair game with the Rangers versus the Penguins. Well, then again, I hate the Penguins more than the Rangers. But that's going to happen in every sport, It's going to be hard to be a fair ref throughout the whole thing, and to try to, especially if you have a bad relationship with some of the players, like say, Sidney Crosby, start bashing Peel on social media or to his face or whatever, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. So you're going to be subconsciously looking for penalties to call on Sidney Crosby. So, and again, this guy goes back to NHL, that they should have pulled this ref back a lot sooner than now, all because it came out on audio that he said, I want to get a penalty against those guys. Now, we all know also that if that audio didn't come out, if the audio wasn't out there, he'd still have a job today. But instead of being proactive and trying to grade these refs and keep them to be as fair as possible, they want to react to when it happens, when something bad happens. And NHL the past few years has been gaining some steam to try to be one of those top 4 of the major sports, top 3 of the major sports. Obviously, no one's going to touch football anytime soon. Baseball is slowly dying. It's bleeding out a slow and miserable death. As much as I love baseball, there's nothing to excite you about baseball. Okay, yeah, you go to a live game, it's different than watching it on TV, but you're forking out $400 or $500 a game to go see baseball. Whereas NFL, if I'm gonna fork $400 or $500, I want to see violence, physicalness, hard hitting, good interceptions. Go to baseball, you're hoping for a 500-foot moon hitting home run. And NHL the past few years, I think, has been garnering a lot more attention, and also I think that's why ESPN signed him to such a long deal last week, 7-year deal, which starts next season. I still think hockey is better than basketball. So, and I think hockey took over basketball the past couple of years, just because I think I know a lot of people like NBA having the super teams, but me personally, I don't like it. Like, that's you playing Madden on rookie and trading for Patrick Mahomes, Julio Jones, Rob Gronkowski, all these on the same team, and getting them all underneath the cap and going for the Super Bowl. It's just, not fun to watch. And you don't see that in hockey. And so, right now, I gotta say hockey's probably the second biggest of the 4 major sports. Now, I don't think this incident is going to hurt that. I don't think it's gonna leave a black eye, as the saying would say, but I think this may open up NHL's eyes a little bit, say, like, listen, we finally got some momentum going here. We need to do something to make sure this doesn't happen again. So the past week or so, I've been tuning in here and there to watch my Flyers. I've been getting some time to watch them, and I know they've been, you can't even say struggling, the word, because they've just been terrible the past 10 games or so. I went back and looked at their schedule, and if you look at their last 10 games, they're actually 3-7, with only one of those 3 wins being in regulation. So they're still going to overtime. And one of those losses was 9-0 to the Rangers on national TV. There's so many holes on this team. I know a lot of Flyers fan wants to see Chuck Fletcher. God, I can't talk now. Make some trades at the trade deadline, get some defensive help, maybe get a winger to help with the scoring. But I don't think it's worth it, honestly. I think it's better just to, just ride out the season, come to the off season, and figure out what to do, because a defenseman, I don't believe, is going to put this team back over the top to make it to playoffs. Right now, they're on the outside looking in, and the reason why I say that is because, and I did not know about this, about how the playoff seeding is going to go this year. So basically, only 4 teams from every division will make the playoffs this year. Then after that round of playoff games, it gets a little bit different. More so based off of their regular season records, they'll get reseeded. Right now, the Flyers are sitting in 5th place in their division, behind Boston, the Islanders, the Capitals, and the Penguins, which is interesting because of how the Penguins had a slow start to the season. With roughly like 20 or so games to go in the season, just looking at the points, I think trying to get number 1 in division is out of the question. They're 12 points behind. Like I said, there's roughly about 20 games left. That's tough. Washington's going to be tough. They're 10 points behind them with 4 games to go against them. They have 3 games against the Islanders there too. So basically, number 1 seed is going to be unattainable. So that leaves you with the Bruins and maybe the Penguins. They got 3 games left against Boston and 3 games against Pittsburgh. They're 2 points behind Boston and 6 against Pittsburgh. But if they don't shore up, and I've been saying all year, that defense, since last season's playoffs, they're turning over the puck way too much in their own zone. And I know I've been a huge defender of Carter Hart, and I still think he's going to be a good goalie. He's 21, 22 years old, still has a lot of time left in his career. But this defense and the turnovers are not helping him at all. Now, are there some pucks that he should be stopping? Without a doubt. You've shown what you could do in that first season of being called up, that some of the pucks that are getting through now are the ones that you were saving that first time that you came up. But that could be his defenseman's and the turnovers being in his head, like, okay, I got worried about jumping back here after I try to save this, shot there. And I just don't think it's worth Fletcher to try to trade one of our starting defensemen, which, whatever, you got to get rid of them to get someone better. And some prospects, because our prospects are pretty good. All our young guys have the Phantoms in first place right now. And then draft picks. Now, I did see that there was rumors going around that a lot of the hockey GMs are more looking forward to trying to get 2022 draft picks compared to this year's draft picks, because with COVID going on and the pandemic, can't really go see the players face to face, training and playing. Whereas 2022, all this should be gone, or at least done enough that we all could go back to semi-living normal. But where does this leave the Flyers, for this season? I would just, if I'm Fletcher, just ride it out. Come to the off season, look at your lineup. Your Voracek's getting up there now. Then we also have the expansion draft next year, and there's a lot of talk of who are we going to protect. I know Van Riemsdyk's name got popped up that we may not be able to protect him. You're obviously going to want to protect Provorov. You're going to protect Hart. Farabee, they better protect Farabee. I mean, he's probably the only bright light of the season that he's been consistent. Konechny, I thought by him signing that contract extension, he would have brought the same type of offense that he brought early on in his career, and he hasn't even really panned out. So there's a lot of issues going on with the Flyers, and I just don't think it's worth trading anything right now this season to try to win now. I really think Fletcher should think about more so the future than trying to sacrifice for now. UFC 260 is this weekend, and I'll tell you what, it looks like a pretty good card. But how like WWE usually has, Royal Rumble, Return of Kane or whatever, like they have like a little name after the main pay-per-view name. Well, I really think this one should be called UFC 260 Questions Will Be Answered, because the top 3 fights all have questions going into it. Stipe versus Nagano. This is the second time they're fighting. Nagano couldn't, his wrestling wasn't that great. Sorry, I had a little burp there. He gassed out, Stipe, and beat him this time. Now it seems like Nagano lately, granted, hasn't had a lot of ring time because he's been knocking out people left and right. Has he, fixed those problems that hurt him the first time around when they fought? Got Tyrone Woodley versus Vincent Lecou, and Woodley. What happened to him? He won the belt, defended it, then he lost to Usman, and just hasn't been that same type of fighter. Is he over his prime? Then we have Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida, with the questions of, is Sean O'Malley really the Sugar Shane Show? Is he really as good as advertised? His last fight he lost, his first loss, but the hype was huge with him going into that fight. And second time that he got hurt, with his ankles and his leg. So kind of breaking this down, I'll stick with the Sugar Shane here. Now, like I said, it was Shane's first loss, even though he still keeps on saying mentally he's not defeated, even though, your record says you're 12-1, or however many wins you got, you lost. But one of his first fights in UFC, he broke his leg. That's the fight that I fell in love with his fighting style, was the fact that he was able to beat the guy pretty much with a full third round to go, with one foot up on the fence. Then he had this issue with his last fight, where he had a dead nerve, it turned out to be, even though he had to be stretchered out because it was, at the time they thought it was a broken ankle, a broken leg, or whatnot. Now this fight, though, I think is a very good fight for him. It's kind of a step back in a way. Thomas Almeida is on a 3-fight losing streak. So he's another one that's on the fence. I think if he loses here, he'll be out of the UFC. But this would be a good confidence booster, even though O'Malley is still showing that he's confident. I think it's all show, and I think just winning one here may help get that confidence back, especially if he could get through it without getting hurt. Any type of injuries, ankle, shoulder, anything. Do I think he wins? I think he still does. If you go on ESPN, their breakdown of the fights, they have both of them as strikers. So, he is a very good striker, but again, can't keep bringing it up. But he's injury prone. If he gets hurt here, I think Dana may sit him down and be like, listen, you either got to bulk up and move up a weight class, or this is not going to work. Now, Tyrone Woodley versus LeCoux. A lot of questions. Like I said, Woodley, is he done? Is he past his prime? And then on the flip side, what does a win for LeCoux do for him? If you look at the rankings, LeCoux is number 10 right now. Woodley is 7, I believe, according to UFC, even though, you guys know how I feel about these rankings. With Woodley, if he wins, I don't think it completely gets him out of the deep water of you're going to be cut or retire. But I think it helps take a little bit of heat off. I think it buys him a little bit of time. If LeCoux wins, Woodley's done. There's no questions about it. I'd be surprised if someone asked Dana, what are you going to do with Woodley? And Dana says something of, I got to sit down and talk to him. If he loses, he's done. If LeCoux wins, which I think is going to happen, I think LeCoux is going to win this one. I think you get a top 5 guy. Like the 4th or 5th ranked guy, whoever it is at the end of, next week or whatnot. Because you're number 10, you're fighting a number 7 guy who was a former champion, who was a dangerous champion at the time. So he has the name there. And LeCoux has a good record. Say the past 10 fights, he has a lot of wins. He had 1 or 2 slip-ups, but he has a lot of wins. So if LeCoux wins, I would give him, the 4th or 5th ranked guy, and then see what he could, see what he has. Then the main event, like I started to say with the beginning of the segment, Stipe versus Francis. Stipe, there's only one UFC fighter ever, well, 2, to fight into their late 40s and be competitive and still win, and that was Dan Henderson and Randy Couture. Now, before you all say, well, about DC, listen, John Jones owns him. Even though his fights got overturned to no contest those couple of times, Stipe beat him in the heavyweight division. So, yes, he was competitive, but he wasn't like a great competitive, where Dan Henderson and Randy Couture was. But Stipe, I don't believe, is one of those guys. I think he still can be competitive, but I think he's going to be more of a DC now, where he's going to win one, lose one. And just to throw it out there, I think he wins this one. I think he goes on to defend his belt against Francis, just because I'm really worried about how much ring time Francis has had over his past 4 or 5 fights. I think it was a total of like 2.5 minutes. I mean, yeah, that's all power he's using. But if Stipe could get into the second, third, well, more of the third round and on, Francis is going to gas. And a lot of times when he throws, he leaves that chin wide open because he's lunging. And that's where I think actually Stipe is going to beat him. I think he's going to knock him out because he's just going to connect on one of those punches. Francis has looked better his past few fights, but I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's gotten that much better to be able to beat Stipe and win the championship. So I will be live tweeting during the fight. So make sure you guys head over to ST Sports Podcast over on Twitter and follow us there, and we'll get some interaction going. Some good interaction. Maybe some ball busting. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll do a giveaway. We'll see how many people get interacting here and go from there. But I think that's going to be it for this week. Like I said at the top of the show, though, if there's any podcasters or businesses out there interested in sponsoring a race or any awards for the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series that starts April 9th Hit us up on Twitter or Facebook, or look up NSRA's Racing League, and you could message them there, and they could definitely get you more information if you have any questions. Also, head over to staytunesports.net. That's where you can find all our social media accounts in case you forgot what I said as far as Twitter. And the merchandise tab is up top there. Make sure you keep on checking in there. I'm going to be getting some new stuff posted soon. Hopefully, my weekends are starting to calm down a little bit. I could start getting that back all in order too. So, till next week, this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.